Hi, JD here with another case study, which I think is a pretty compelling one. I mean, you wouldn't expect me to say anything else, but if you own a business, you might like to stick with me for a few minutes because I think you'll find this one particularly interesting. Now, that's a pretty good lead in, isn't it? Okay. Look, I'm normally pretty cheeky and jovial, but this is about a serious subject. This was a campaign, a marketing campaign that I was asked to put together for the Prostate Survivor or Survival Alliance. And now this was a group of men who had fortunately survived prostate cancer. And they were worth a few dollars. And they wanted to actually pay back to the surgeon who saved their lives by, I guess, making prostate cancer a conversational piece, particularly for men over 40, and encouraging men to go in and get a blood test to determine if they fell in the high risk category. And of course, men being, men, we all think we're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, so we don't go to the doctor as often as women. And how this came about and how they contacted me was that I was looking after the marketing for the Greater Building Society in the head offices in Newcastle. And this particular Prostate Survival Alliance group happened to have their head office in Newcastle. And they had been seeing all the stuff that I was doing on TV for the Greater Building Society. Get a home loan, get a free holiday, Jerry Seinfeld, all that sort of stuff. And they contacted the chief executive of the Building Society and said, look, who does your advertising? It's just knockout. And John Arnold, the chief executive, said, oh, this guy called John Dwyer, JD. They said, is there any chance we could meet him? And I said, yeah, sure, we can do that. So they came in and met me in the boardroom of the Greater Building Society, and they said, look, we don't care what you cost. We've got money. We're millionaires, and we just want to spread the news that men need to get to their doctor and get a blood test, because this is a cancer that has a high survival rate if you get to it early. And we just want to help, and particularly the surgeon that fixed us, because we did get to early, we want to actually tell men that's what they should be doing. And I thought, well, that's wonderful of them to donate money to a campaign like that. And they said, look, what do you charge? I said, nothing. And they said, what? I said, no, look, if you're paying back, then I'm happy to pay back as well, because I fell in the category of probably the sort of age group that should go and get the test anyway. So they're very grateful for that. I did it for free. And I said to them after a couple of meetings, because I had to get to know, what they're all about, their aim was to get men to go to their local GP and just get a blood test. And because when that blood test came back, it's called a PSA test, okay? When that blood test comes back, it'll say whether you're in a high risk category, and if your PSA level is over a certain number, then that's when you should go and get, a bigger checkup. And I said, okay, fine, leave that with me, but can I ask you, do you want a campaign that's wild or mild? Because I know it's a touchy subject, of course, and I wanted to know whether or not they wanted to be a bit out there or they just wanted to be conservative. So I said, look, wild or mild? They went for wild, thankfully, because I say thankfully because I don't do mild. Okay, so what you're about to see are a couple of TV commercials. One of them aimed at the men, and another one aimed at the decision maker for the men. Guess what? Their wives. Okay, so we created two ads. Now I have to say to you that I am not responsible for the quality of these TV ads, the production quality, because they knew someone who could put it together, and that someone put it together. And I, to be honest with you, I would have probably made the ads a little bit more upmarket, David Jones style. And so therefore, don't take too much notice of the quality, the production quality of the ad, but rather the content, the creative behind the content. I'll play it now, and the result of this, I'll tell you the full result of it after you see the TV ads, but we're talking an incredible avalanche of men going to their GPs. In fact, so much so, I'm spoiling it now, but I'll tell you before I play the ads, so much so that they presented me with a lovely certificate at the end of this campaign. They said that I was responsible for helping save perhaps up to 16,000 lives, because I think that was that number some years ago now, but because there was that many men that went to their GP, had the blood test, and decided that they needed to go and get checked up further. So therefore, because it was in the early stages, they basically have a terrific survival rate. Let me play both of these TV ads. I'll play the wife one first, okay? And you'll notice it's pretty cheeky.
I made my husband get a little prick.
I wasn't going to let my husband get away with it any longer. I booked him in for a little prick this week.
I told my husband not to come home until he got a little prick.
1 in 8 men over 50 will get prostate cancer. If detected early, the cure rate is high. Yes, a single prick at your local doctor's surgery is all that is needed to measure the PSA level.
Guys, do it for your wife.
Do it for your family.
Get a little prick this week.
Okay. As I said, look, I'm normally cheeky, and so therefore, whilst this is a serious subject, we needed to get men off their backside into the GP, into their doctor. And so therefore we created another one for men. And again, the production values of this are probably a little bit cheap. I would have done it differently because they knew someone that did it on their behalf. I had to put up with that. I wrote the ads, by the way. But nonetheless, regardless of whether or not the production quality might have not been what I would have liked it to have been, the message was still super duper duper powerful. And this is the man version, the male version of the TV ads.
My wife made me get a little prick.
She wanted me to get a little prick by Friday, so I did. You don't mess with my wife.
I got sick of my wife snagging, so I decided to go and get a little prick.
1 in 8 men over 50 will get prostate cancer. If detected early, the cure rate is high. Yes, a single prick at your local doctor's surgery is all that is needed to measure the PSA level.
Do it for the wife. Do it for your family.
And get a little prick this week.
Okay, so you can see again, yeah, they were cheeky. And I believe that to make a difference, you need to be different. Okay, I'm not a great philosopher, but nonetheless, that's my philosophy. To make a difference, you've got to be different. And this certainly was different from any other medical advertisements, if you like, that would have been out there encouraging men to go and get, you know, a blood test for prostate issues. It just jammed, absolutely jammed the GPs. So much so, by the way, that we had to stop the ad after a fortnight. So these men, wonderful men who were, you know, donating the money to put the advertising on television and social media, because GPs around the regional areas of New South Wales, we actually centred the ad as a test case on regional towns in New South Wales. So these guys were in Newcastle, so we put the ad on places like Coffs Harbour, obviously Newcastle, places like the Central Coast, Dubbo, Orange, you know, all that sort of stuff. So therefore, the ad's got a good, you know, a good airing in those particular regional areas. But because the local doctor's surgeries were flooded with men going in to get a blood test, we had to stop the ads. They actually said to me, look, we had to take the ads, because I actually was seeing the ads quite often myself, because I would travel down towards Newcastle. I live on the Gold Coast, but I travelled to Newcastle. I saw them, and then all of a sudden they stopped. And I said, what? They said, look, we had to turn them off. It was so successful. There was a queue at the GP's door for men, and they said it was just stunning, absolutely stunning. So it just goes to prove you've got to think outside the square, and there was no disrespect to the seriousness of this issue, but men being men, you had to be cheeky, in my opinion. You had to be a bit outside the square to get them and go and do something, get off their backside and do something. So again, it's creativity used with a sensitive subject, but at the same time having a little bit of humour attached to it. If you would like this sort of thinking, which is, I think, outside the box, wow factor thinking, and direct response thinking, in other words, bang, turning the tap on quickly, then you'll see there's a link above or below me here that is our private consult program. And if you're interested in being part of that, then yeah, you're a business owner, you want to think differently, then click the link above or below and talk to us about us helping you in the same fashion.